In the last video, we went over the Allied powers, Russia, France, England, United States, and we went over the central powers of the Ottoman Empire, Germany, and Austria-Hungary. This one, we're going to look at some of the causes of World War I. We'll go through each one individually. The unification of Germany in 1870, the alliance systems, militarization, industrialization, social unrest, and, in my opinion, most importantly, nationalism. So let's start with the unification of Germany. Prussian Prime Minister Otto von Bismarck unified Prussia and the German states in 1871 under Kaiser Wilhelm I. The previous year, Prussia had defeated France in the Battle of Sedan. This battle decided the Franco-Prussian War and ended the reign of France's Napoleon III. It also forced France to cede Alsace-Lorraine territory to Germany. So because of Germany unifying over a war with France, it's going to cause a lot of friction with France and lead to this conflict in World War I, the motivations to fight France and France to fight Germany. A unified Germany threatened England as well, especially England's industrial dominance. Germany also embarked on a military buildup that posed a threat to all of Europe. Germany's well-equipped, well-trained army became the standard by which other armies in Europe were measured. Germany also built railroads and transport troops and supplies, modernized its weaponry, continually trained its troops. This is just a big buildup of military, which you use to fight wars. Imperialism as a cause for World War I. Imperialism was clearly a contributing cause of World War I. The competition for overseas possessions often brought European powers into conflict. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, Germany became more and more aggressive in its quest for imperial possessions. That's colonies. In 1905, the leading imperial power acceded to Germany's demands for a conference to dispute French control of Morocco. Though Germany gained nothing, other nations began to view Germany as a threat to the stability of Europe. Britain and France had vied for control of areas in Africa and the Middle East and the Indian subcontinent. It was not until the Anglo-French Entente in 1904 that the two nations finally settled their colonial disputes. The entangling alliances that historians often cite as the premier cause of World War I actually came about as a result of conflicts over imperialism. So imperialism led to these massive alliances. Remember, if one side gets attacked, they all respond together. That came out of imperialism. And now the alliances. European alliances were designed to keep a balance of power. The Triple Entente, that's the Britain, France, and Russia, balanced the Triple Alliance of Germany, Austria, and Italy. Belgium had pledged neutrality but made a treaty with Britain to protect it in case of attack. And that's what happens. Germany attacks Belgium, and that's how Britain gets into World War I. The Ottoman Empire was weak and had allowed Germany too much control over its foreign policy. As a whole, these alliances assured total peace or total war. There was nothing in between. One incident could set off a chain of reaction that would draw all the countries of Europe into a conflict. So let's see how industrialization affected the Great War. Industrial Revolution brought great changes to all aspects of life, including the military. Armies were now swifter, stronger, more mobile, and more deadly. New technologies also created new weapons. The cavalry and bayonets of the past would now meet tanks, machine guns, howitzer cannons, airplanes on the battlefield of Europe. And social unrest played a large part. Since the Enlightenment, people had begun to lose faith in divine right and to question their governments. No longer did the poor and oppressed accept that they were destined by God to be poor and oppressed. Communist and socialist movements across Europe called for reforms that allowed labor unions, granted greater freedom to the masses, and established more democratic governments, more people power. Instead of all power to the king, let's give some power to the people. As the movements grew, monarchs looked for ways to unite their countries. They found it in nationalism. So let's cover nationalism. Nationalism is a big uniting force. In countries like Germany, nationalist movements united the people with a sense of greatness, of who they were. Nationalism takes patriotism and adds a sense of superiority that calls for the conquering of the inferior. In the 19th century, nationalism was expressed as dedication to and identification with the nation state, as evidenced by the unification of Germany and Italy. Another aspect of nationalism, you really define yourself by looking at others and saying, I'm not like them. We're different. We're our own group. So this sense of tribalism that they're not the same as us is what nationalism really harks on. These are some discussion questions for you to answer in Google form.